Good morning and welcome to the 14th episode of the RK Leadership Podcast, where we empower tomorrow's leaders through the sharing of knowledge, experience, and inspiring stories. My name is Rob Cameronpour, and I'll be your host today. And my special guest this morning is Sensei Mark of the Northern Karate School. Thank you very much, Mark, for joining me this morning on our 14th podcast. And again, I want to thank you for giving us your time. I know you've got a busy schedule with all the classes.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind, we're going to jump right into the questions.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So my first question would be, if you can share your story about what drew you into the martial arts and how it's impacted your life.
So I've always just been drawn to it as a kid. I remember, jumping on the bed, doing jump kicks and things like this, which I didn't really know what it was. And then when we moved to Canada, my dad would just rent martial arts movies, and he'd make me watch them. And he'd just sit me down and he'd make me watch Karate Kid, Bruce Lee movies, Van Damme movies. And one day he came home and he handed me a gi and said, I registered you for karate lessons.
Nice.
And then just set me on the path for the rest of my life right there.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So what's been one of the, or some of the challenging, aspects of martial arts, and how did you overcome these challenges?
For me, it was, what was challenging was when I was, it came easily to me, right? And, whatever I was taught, it came easily, or I thought it came easily, or I was always being told I was doing a great job, but during class. However, the other kids in classes were being promoted to their next belt much faster than I was, or I thought was much faster than I was. But I realized, even though I may have been one of the better guys in class, I wasn't working as hard. So even though I was performing better, maybe winning the sparring matches, I'd only train 2-3 times a week rather than they'd be there every day.
Yeah.
So I realized it's like the hard work is what's rewarded and not just coasting on your talent. Like we have a saying, the saying, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So,
That's right.
That was one of the things that was hard for me to overcome, especially as a teenager, as a young kid. But to have learned that really early on was valuable. One of the most valuable things I've learned was that. Like, you could have all the talent in the world, you could have all the answers, but it's what you do with it that matters. Yeah.
Awesome. So how do you integrate the philosophy of martial life into your daily life?
Before every class, we would sit in seiza, seated meditation. That's like a seated on your knees, and we do mukso, which we empty our minds. We prepare ourselves for class, so that we can focus at the task at hand, having a good class, and just focusing on doing karate, martial arts for class. But at the end, we sit in the same position and we sit in hansei, which is review. We review what we worked on. So, that's how I integrate it. I always reflect, self-reflection. I always reflect back to, okay, did I do the right thing? Was that the best way to handle, maybe it's conflict? Was that the best way I could have handled that conflict? Sometimes dealing with other people. Or just different things with my personal life. After I sparring, or when I spar in karate, or when I do rolling in jiu-jitsu, I always think back at that round. Okay, I did this wrong, my opponent was able to pull this move off, or I did this really, really well. What could have I done better? I did this, he reacted, so that I'll do that after every round. So now I do that with my personal life as well. Personal, like outside of the dojo. Whatever it is, it's like, okay, could I have handled that? Like, driving, just like if somebody cut me off and I'm like, I could have probably reacted much better. Or, you know what, I'm proud of myself that I didn't let that affect me.
That's right.
In every aspect. That's what martial arts have really taught me was just to look back. Maybe you're the problem. Right?
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
So it's interesting. You brought up 2 points where I want to kind of elaborate a little bit
Yeah.
more on. And one is meditation. Now, there's been this hype about meditation recently, and how important it is for people to meditate to, get rid of stress and whatnot. What would you recommend in terms of medication? How do people start meditating?
So I don't meditate in the traditional sense where I sit and I just close my eyes. I'll do that really, really quickly to prepare myself with whatever task I have to do. Or first thing in the morning, I wake up and I'll just like lie down in bed for 5-10 minutes just to like think about what I have to do today, whether train. But we have this thing called kata in karate. Forms, if you will, and we call that moving meditation, right? To be able to perform it and to do it really, really well, you have to be present in it.
That's right.
You have to be. You can't be thinking about anything else. So that to me is my meditation. Like I'll doing kata, because then I think about nothing else. I'm present in it. That's all I think about. I'm not thinking about what's like the next move. I don't even think about like in that kata, I'm not thinking about the next move. I'm just thinking about this move right now and how can I do it as best as I can, as fast as I can, as strong as I can. So that's how I meditate, but it's taught me to be present because for me, I want to do a good job at it.
That's right.
So I just think of nothing but that. Right? And sometimes when I teach, there'll be 40, 50, 60 people, kids, right? Or even adults. I have to tell this to the adults more so. It's like, sometimes I get you guys to perform all at the same time so that it's like a hurricane. There's all this distraction around you because everyone may be doing the same thing or they may be doing something completely different, but you can't help sometimes to be like, if we were doing it together, we're like, oh, what move is Rob at?
Yes.
Am I doing it wrong if I'm questioning myself? Let me check with Rob. And let me check what Rob is doing, and maybe he knows more than me. And that's gonna totally throw you off, right? So I make the students do that so that they can focus on themselves with all this craziness going on around. So I try to mimic life in the class by doing karate, right? By doing kata. It's like, okay, everybody together. No, sorry, not together. Everybody, when I say go, you guys go and start performing. And if you start thinking about that this guy's too close to you or this guy's a move ahead, you're done, right? So it really forces you to think about what you're doing. And to me, that's meditation, right? It's just to block out the noise. And
I think that's the hardest part for people is, in today's social life that we live in, it's very hectic. A lot of people are overthinking about everything.
Yeah.
How do you, again, what would be your advice for people in terms of how do you gain that focusedness to be present?
Take a deep breath. And that's that again. I bring everything back to martial arts, right? Before I start that kata, I will take a deep breath. Even though my sensei says begin, my first move is a deep breath, right? Or if I'm in an engagement in a sparring round, if it's stand-up, I'll just bounce away so I'm not in danger and striking range of my opponent, and I'll take a deep breath, right? When I'm rolling, right, I'll also create some space so that there's no engagement, so I can take a deep breath. And sometimes that deep breath allows me to reassess.
That's right.
Right? And sometimes when I'm, working and I'm in in the office and there's something that I don't really quite know or is frustrating to me, I will take a deep breath. There's been times where I've said, okay, you know what, can you I just have to go get something in the other office.
Yeah.
And just that walk from that one office allows me to rethink and maybe okay, how can I handle this better? That's
so pause and breathe.
Yeah, but and it's just take yourself out of the situation and put yourself back in. Sometimes I tell the parents when some of the parents they'll be like, they're my kids having problem focusing with school, and sometimes it's not problem focusing, but it's too much focusing, right? Like they're looking at is the question on the paper.
That's right.
But their mind's already somewhere else. So sometimes I tell them just tell them to go away, and come back, and then their mind is refreshed already, and the answer is right there, right? So just sometimes just take yourself away from the situation and come back, and that's what I do. It's worked for me,
Yep.
and I see that it's worked for the students too. So
That's right. No, that's an excellent point, Mark, and thanks for sharing that. And the second point I wanted to touch base on, which you brought up, is the self-reflection. So I talk about this quite a bit in terms of leadership and even in your own personal life, that you need to take time to self-reflect.
Yeah.
Now, how does that self-reflection look for you? And what would you advise people out there? How often should they be self-reflecting, and what do you do in that when you are self-reflecting?
How often? I think it's every time I have a question about how I behaved, and again, that's like martial arts has taught me, and my teachers have taught me that you're not always going to have the answer, and you're not always going to be the best, right? But
Yes.
you could work towards that. And so I think for me, my self-reflection always happens after, well, obviously it's after, but mostly when, I just have this feeling like that wasn't the right way to approach whatever it was. And, I don't, some people say, at the end of every day, right? I find sometimes as well, I have a journal, and that's great. Like I try to write every day. It doesn't quite work every day, but if you can, right? It's a great thing to do. I love journaling. But usually it's when I have doubt, right? And when I'm disappointed in mostly in myself,
That's
right?
right.
Because I feel like I could have just done better. I could have approached something better, and it could be, it could be like putting up the Christmas tree, right? We put up the Christmas tree, and I didn't quite like, where we put all the ornaments,
Yes.
So there's this little self-reflection there. Like, maybe I rushed it. I didn't take my time. Or it could be how I treated someone, right? It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I do a lot of self-reflection there. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So again, in your journey, Mark, what's been the most rewarding in the sense of that martial arts has brought you?
Well, what's most rewarding is martial arts has given me everything, right? It's where I've met my wife, so I have my kids. It provides for me, with thanks to Hanshi Cesar Borkowski, who's my instructor, and he started Northern Karate Schools. Just him allowing me to run a dojo using the name and the system that he's created. That's what's been rewarding to me. But from a day-to-day basis, what's really rewarding is seeing the kids and the students who struggle, who it didn't come easy to, right? And they make that breakthrough. It's rewarding to me because that wasn't me in some ways, right? So it allows me to understand and be more empathetic to certain people. But it's just there's like a sense of pride,
Yes.
like that someone worked that hard, and you could see the happiness in them, and you could see the happiness and the parents being so grateful, And it took a while for me to get there because, it doesn't happen overnight. But seeing the kids who really need martial arts make that breakthrough.
That's right.
It's not even a physical breakthrough, but like the focus, like they're able to focus now, and the confidence when they make that breakthrough. That's very, very rewarding. That's the most rewarding thing for me and my wife.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that's a great segue to my next question, which is, if you can share a story with us about one of your students who has made a transformation through your classes, like a significant transformation through your classes.
I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah,
You know, I've been teaching at this dojo for 15 years.
Wow.
And before that, I was teaching for another 10 years for my sensei. So I don't want to leave anybody out, but there's a lot. But you know, the most I'll just pick some most recent ones. So we just had our black belt exam, you know, and there's these two girls that stood out. One, we failed her last time, and you know, to get a black, you only have an opportunity to get your black belt twice a year at Northern Karate. So in June, I had to tell her she failed. And then, you know, throughout that whole process, it's a 6-month process of testing to be awarded your black belt with us. You know, she knew all the material and she was good, but you know, she had a little bit of an attitude. She was, you know, 13, 14-year-old. She felt like she knew all the answer, and she knew she was going to pass. You know, in her mind, she was passing, right? But it's not just about knowing the material. So when we, you know, and I thought to myself, you know, like if we fail her, she may quit, you know, and but you know, like we're not just going to give it to her because she knows the material. She has to show that umph, right?
Yes.
She has to show that. So we failed her, and when we explained it to her, you could tell she, you know, she kind of like had an eye roll, you know, and this past one, she was the best, you know. She really like turned it up. She was ki-eyeing the loudest. She had the best spirit. She, you know, she put everything she had in that test. Nice. You know, and so she doesn't enjoy to sparring, and so she's told me that, and this happened to the other girl too. One girl, she passed out, right, and she went to go sit down, and this girl that I'm talking about, she got punched in the nose by one of the who used to fight professional boxing. Right, and I saw it, and then her eyes got watered. She wiped her nose, and then she left to go into the washroom to wipe her nose, a little bit teary-eyed, and you know, and I thought, okay, well, this is it. She might not come back, right? And I'm like, but we're gonna keep this sparring section going to see what she decides to do. And in my mind, I'm like, she's done a great job here, but if she decides she's not coming back, she's not getting a black belt. And she just came back and she put her gloves on and she goes, okay, who do you want me to spar now? Who do you want me to my partner? I said, we're done. Because that's all I needed to see from her. Nice. Was that she wasn't going to give up. And then the other girl, she had ice packs on the back of her neck and on the top of her head. And then she comes running in and she goes, I'm ready to come back, right? And she was like, it didn't come easy for her as well, right? Like for her, it was like it was a difficult road to her. So, you know, those two things are rewarding, and that's, to me, that's what martial arts is about. Absolutely. It's just that, like, not giving up and overcoming your fears and doing it anyways. So yeah, those most recent two examples of students. I've got lots. Every day there's a you know, someone makes me proud. So awesome. Yeah,
that's great, and that's a great story to share. And just keeping with that kind of on that topic, how do you help students overcome self-doubt through your training?
Through their training, you know what? We do like a crawl, walk, run, right? So, and I've spoken to you about this. Yes. As well. You know, there's this misconception of what martial arts is, right? And you know, like in the beginning, you have to be this amazing thing right away to get your first belt. But you know, like we make it positive for and fun in the beginning, so that they love it. So that when it gets hard, they're coming because they enjoy it and they love it, and they're not going to let something so small stop them from achieving something valuable.
That's right.
You know, so we're very positive. Like if you watch me teach, you know, the white belts and the you know, guys, the students that are 6 months into it, I'm positive, I'm empathetic, I'm understanding. But the students who are like been here, like the black belts and the brown belts, I'm a different person, right? But because they can handle it, they're mature, right? We've helped them realize that it's because they're not giving us what we know they're capable of.
That's right.
Right, and they've already experienced that through the process of training, right? Like, so we do that where we hold their hands in the beginning, and then we sort of kick them in the butt at the end, right? Nice. So it's that's what we do.
They built that discipline and whatnot,
and confidence. And the focus, like like you said, the discipline, the confidence, the respect, that doesn't happen overnight. So we help them build that for being caring in the beginning, and showing like like treating them like a baby, like we almost shelter them, right?
That's right.
And then at the higher belts, we still care for them, but we care for them a little bit, a lot different, right? Like, it's like, no, I care, like, I'm pushing you now because I care for you. Like, I care about your progress, but they can handle it at that point.
Yeah.
So it's like being a parent in some way, right? So
tough love.
Like at the end, yes. Not right away, right? So that's how we help them overcome all those self-doubt and fear. Was lots of love and care in the beginning, and then tough love at the end. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Mark, in today's, let's look at today's society.
Yeah.
How would you say martial arts is relevant in today's society, especially for the younger generation?
What martial arts teaches you is how to fail and how to accept failing, right? And it's because you're not going to get the move right away, whatever that is. And whether you're doing kata, which is the forms, you're going to make mistakes, and you're not going to remember the move right away, right? And there's always something, like, you may remember the sequence, but you will, it might not be as clean and crisp, the performance. So you have to continue to work on it. If you're into sparring or if you're into rolling, that new technique that you want to try out, it might not work, right? But you have to keep at it.
That's right.
Right? And I think now, like the kids, I see them, when I ask them to do something, they just freeze, right? And they don't even want to try. And they'd rather not try than fail. Or get it wrong, right? And sometimes I've already seen them do it, right? And I'll be like, but they don't know I'm watching, so I go, that was really great, so let me watch it. I'd be like, hey, Rob, can you show me that again? And they won't do it. Yeah. And they were just doing it perfectly, right? And that fear of failure, but you can't succeed without failing.
Absolutely.
Right? Without trying, right? And I think that's where martial arts training will really help. Is teach the future generation to take chances, and that it's okay, because you can come back. Like, if that move doesn't work for me today, it doesn't mean it doesn't work. I can come back and try
That's
it
right.
and tinker with it, and maybe realize that's not a move for me. Maybe doing a backflip before I kick is not good for me anymore. So I'm going to take that one out, and we know that that doesn't work. So let's move on to something else. Let's practice something else. Let's try to do something else. And I know you're doing this for leadership, but it's the same thing. Like, don't, in business, take calculated chances, but don't be afraid to take those chances, because you won't know. Right?
Absolutely.
So that's what I think is where martial arts could really help kids. Awesome. Because they're failing, they don't even know, right?
No, I love that. Yeah. I love that, the fact that you said we teach them how to fail. And in leadership, again, it's the same kind of mentality where you create that safe environment for your employees to fail. So you give them a challenging task, and you let them do that task, and it's okay for them to fail, because, again, you take ownership of it, because ultimately the leader is responsible for your team. So allowing them to fail will teach them to succeed later on in life.
Yeah, and again, going back to and I tell them all the time, the students, listen, if you don't try it and you don't make a mistake, how do I know what to fix?
That's right.
Right.
Yes.
So if you have a team, you allow your team to it's a teaching moment.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you did that wrong. So now I can show you how it's supposed to be done, right?
Yes.
So yeah, and I always have, like, how many times I have to tell kids, if you don't do it, I won't know how to help you.
Yes.
Right. So because I don't know what you're struggling with.
Yeah.
So yeah, that failure is, I don't know why people are afraid of it. I was afraid of it, in a certain way, like it prevented me from almost wanting to pursue my dream.
That's right.
Of having my own dojo, right? But I asked myself, I'm like, but I'm not afraid to fail when I'm on the floor. So
Yes.
what, just take that and transfer it over.
Apply it. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think that's the best thing when you do something like martial arts, it teaches you to apply the concepts everywhere else in life.
Yeah,
different aspects
we
of your
talk about that all the time. It's with the kids, we can't really do it with the adults, but maybe for the spouses they can sign off on it. But what we do is we give them report cards and we say, okay, you're ready. You know your material, but you're also working hard and you're behaving properly. Mm-hmm. So you're okay for your next belt. But here's your sheet. Your teacher has to sign it to say that you're not being a goof at school, or you're not being, and your parents have to sign it just to so that we know. So it's more for the kids to understand, like, oh, I have to be the same way outside as I am inside the dojo, right? So we and that's a quick thing, Sometimes it's when that kid comes back and I say, where's your report card? So because graduation is in a week, and my teacher won't sign it, right? But you could see that it's a nice tool for the teachers as well.
Yes.
Because they will eventually sign it, but they can use it as a way to just coax the kid to. Because what do they want mostly is their belt. Right?
That's right.
So yeah, so then that's good. We do that. That's how we allow
awesome.
them to, or teach them to take what they learn from here and bring it to their everyday lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. I think that's a great concept. Perfect.
There you go.
Okay. So, Mark, what have you observed over the years of conducting martial arts? What have you seen in terms of the changes of the philosophy over the years from beginning when you started till today, where you're at?
In terms of philosophy, I think in terms of teaching, it's I know with Hanshi Cesar Borkowski and the seniors of Northern Karate, and now through me. We just made it more accessible to everybody else, and it was always accessible. Everybody could do it, of course, but back then I think it was like I know for me, I was young and getting concussions. It was survival of the fittest, right? But what Hanshi made us realize was, martial arts is beneficial for everybody, and it has, it has benefits for everybody. So if we beat everybody up, if everybody is like fresh meat coming in, just for the top guys to beat up, they don't get to experience the benefits. So I think the biggest change for me, anyways, is the guidance. Let's guide this, and let's take, maybe the process becomes a little bit slower to technical improvement, but they will get there, right? And we take care of them, and we help them get there. And I think that's the biggest change in philosophy, is just allowing everybody to become amazing at it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So now, in terms of the changes again, what about the teaching? How has the teaching evolved over the years?
Well, I can just speak for myself. For me, my teaching has changed from it's all about me to it's all about my students. like I was young. I started teaching when I was 16. So, for me, it was like, look how good I am. Look how much better I am from
Yes.
everybody else. And it slowly evolved to, and then it evolved to when I opened my own place, is like, oh, my students are going to be better than everybody else, right? And it slowly evolved to, it's about the students.
Yes.
Right? And it's just about how can I help you become the best version of yourself, regardless of anybody else on the floor, regardless of anybody else who trains anybody anywhere else. How can I help you be the best? So for me, my teaching has changed from it's all about me to it's all about
Yes.
my students. So that's the biggest. Yeah.
Awesome. And I can draw like parallels from a leadership perspective where when you're starting off on your journey, you are competing with hundreds or thousands of people for that position, and you have to put in the work, etc. But when you do get into that position, now it's about everyone else.
That's
and,
right.
and
Yeah.
helping your
yeah.
team out.
Yeah, and it's not just my dojo, but there's 14 Northern Karates, but it's about we help each other out too.
Nice.
Right? So there's this like friendly competition, but the competition is to help everybody rise up, right? So when somebody says we share teaching ideas all the time, we train together all the time. So it's about bringing. It's an us thing and not
Yes.
a me thing. And that future leaders can live by that.
Absolutely.
Then for sure, they're a team, because you're nothing without your team.
Yeah.
Right. So. Yeah.
And the concept is like an organization where you guys are just a department of that organization helping each other.
Yeah.
For the greater good.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. That's a great analogy. So Mark, what would your advice be to someone starting on their martial arts journey, regardless of their age?
Be patient. Just be patient and, trust. One, pick the right environment, and then be patient, and then trust your sensei. Like they have your best. They're watching out for you, and they want you to do a good job. Again, going back to that team leadership thing, because you are part of them now, right?
That's right.
So, don't get frustrated. It's frustrating, but don't let the frustration get to you, right? And talk to your teachers, talk to your senseis, talk to the higher belts, because they've all been there as well. So, and it's nice to hear from someone who's been there. Because as a white belt, you think that, you're walking in there. I have to remind my students that I was a white belt as well.
Yes.
Right? And they're like, oh, they think I was born. I knew everything, right? Like, and so just be patient, and be patient with yourself. That would be the advice, and stick, and don't give up so easily. Again, going back to failure, right?
Yes.
Like just don't give up. Just don't give up so easily. You have teachers and senseis that are there to help you. So take advantage of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just keep getting back up and
Yeah.
moving forward.
Yeah.
Excellent. So Mark, in terms of, again, martial arts, what do you believe is some of the contributing facts to the communities and society as a whole?
What it contributes?
Yes.
So my original sensei, it used to say, like, there would, like, if everybody did martial arts, there would be no conflict, properly. And I somewhat agree that that's what it would contribute, right? Because when you're here, like, you get that that frustration out. Like, like for me, like, there's no need to get into altercations outside. So even if, even if somebody wanted to, like, I go here and I spar with my students, I roll with my students, and I do the same thing with my colleagues, and it's a challenge, right? And like, so I get it out of the way. So there's no like here. There's no need to take out anger or aggression outside.
That's right.
You know, like so it's like think about it as a stress release, right? Like, you know, and I tell some parents who, you know, who are worried about that, I say, you know, when you're here, you're for the kids, it's, you know, like the challenge is here. And you don't want, you realize like, why am I going to deal with this bully or whatever when he's going to represent like, it's easy, right? Like, so I just go to the dojo,
yes.
right? And you know, and because you know you can deal with someone that poses a challenge, like, you know, in a sparring or whatever situation, that when someone's trying to bother you outside or trying to get into an altercation, you have the confidence to walk away.
Yes.
And also, you know, it's like, it's not worth it. You know, like I have, you know, my training partner who's going to tie me up or, you know, like give me a hard time. Let me save myself for that
That's
guy,
right.
So, yeah. So I think that's where, and just like everything that we talked about, the self-respect, like the, you know, like the focus, the discipline. You know, everyone talks about motivation, but I think that that's a dirty word, right? Like how, like you cannot be motivated every single minute of every
That's
single
right,
day.
yes.
There's a lot of times where I don't want to go training, but I'm disciplined to do what I need to do.
You got it.
So that, I think that would be what everybody can take from it and how it could help the community. Just that mindship I think motivation's a dirty word. So.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
And you know, as you said about getting into conflicts or altercations outside of the dojo, is people have that discipline to walk away from it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it's so amazing, and there is a misconception out there in the world where they think just because you know martial arts, you're gonna go out in the streets and try to pick a fight with everybody.
Yeah, well, that's what. But it's a complete opposite,
That's right.
And you know, and I know this is a leadership podcast, but you know, it's also like that frustration. Sometimes your team member is not doing what they're supposed to do or what you asked them, or they're just not getting it.
Yes.
And so you have to that discipline of like, okay, let's take a step back and let me show them again for the 10th time, right? And maybe it requires them to get it for that 10th time, and then you have one of the best. You know, and that's what I find. It's like I keep telling the kid, he doesn't get it. It's like I've shown you this 100 times, and then he ends up being the black belt, the sensei eventually, right?
Yes.
And so, you know, you transfer that. It's like that patience that comes with training.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
It's the mind and body.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. So Mark, my next question was, how can we use martial arts as a tool for our well-being and our physical fitness? Well, I understand from the physical fitness, you know, you're always training and whatnot. What about your emotional being?
Well, you know, for me, that's a great question right now too, because I'm like as I age, I'm going from like, you know, everything physical to like, I would say emotional, right? Like I'm switching from, because my body is, I can't do a lot of things I used to do, but I want to keep training. So emotionally, I'm at a tug of war where I'm like, but I want to do this, you know, maybe a jump spin hook kick when I'm sparring, or, you know, or I want to do this like a spinning back take when I'm rolling. But sometimes that my body won't allow me anymore to do that. So, you know, emotionally it's hard, but because martial arts is for everyone, and I can do a lot of things for any body type, for any age group. I can say, okay, you know what? I'm going to change my game, so to speak. I'm going to do something different. Since I can't do those things, I'm going to do the things I can do, so that I can continue to practice what I love. You know, so that's hard emotionally, but because I want to continue to practice it, I am making myself approach my training differently than I used to. You know, and it's the martial arts training that allows me to make that pivot from and also now it's, instead of it about being me, I'm studying and getting better so that I could impart, give that information away to my students.
That's right.
So that's the big change for me, like emotionally.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. And so, Mark, again, in terms of being, yourself, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind from your martial arts days, for your kids and future generations?
I don't really, maybe when I was younger, I would have, but I don't really care too much about leaving a legacy where, everybody in the world would know who I am.
Yeah.
But I just want everybody who walked into this dojo, who became a student here, to remember that, Sensei Mark and Northern Karate Schools was such a positive influence in my life. That's it. Some people have grand dreams, like I want to be known here or there. For me, it's just, if you walked into this dojo, I want you to remember that, Sensei Mark and Northern Karate Schools helped you, and that's I will be very happy with that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's great to share. And if you could share one piece of wisdom with the world from your martial arts experience, what would it be?
I think going back to that failing, it's just don't give up. That would be what I would try to hope everybody would pick up from it, and it's the again, I just find everybody gives up way too easily, and show up. That's, you can't help but get better by showing up, and be present in what you're doing at that moment. I'll focus on what you're doing, and that, I think, will go a long way in fixing a lot of problems. And so that's what I would like to maybe impart. Yeah.
Awesome. And, again, you talk about failure in that sense. What advice would you give parents? What should they do with their kids when their kids feel like that, that sense of failing? What can parents do to help their kids overcome that fear?
I think it's, I think most of that, actually, the pressure maybe might be coming from the parent, right? I think sometimes just being understanding that, and asking questions, right? Not like, why did you fail, but like, okay, what did you find difficult? I'm talking about like schoolwork, you know, and sometimes there's too much living through the kids, and I'm sort of guilty with that sometimes, like making my kids love martial arts, but the more they love it, the more I want to show them, and I have to pull back sometimes, and and there's knowing your kids sometimes, right? Like not everyone is going to be amazing at math or technology or science, but maybe they're artists. Maybe they want to build things, or they're performers, or they like to work with their hands, right? So, just, I think knowing or trying to find that out about your kids would be, would help them with the pressure, right? So then they're not scared to fail.
That's right.
Because then you can sort of steer them to be like, yes, of course you have to do well in school, you have to get good math grades, but you know what, let's take you to, you seem to like to perform, let's take you to dance class.
Yes.
And like, that's where you are, that's what you're doing, that's where your passion lies, you're happy, you can maybe pursue that, but and so then there's a little bit less pressure on this because they're able to do this.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's weird, parents. You know, I will get this, oh, my kid really loves it. Really loves martial arts, wants to be here every day. So we're going to pull him out. Oh, why would you do that? Oh, because he's struggling with school. Okay, so you're going to, whatever it is, I just have this experience with martial arts. So you're punished, so you're going to take the one thing he enjoys so that he'll be miserable because you think they will do a better job. By being miserable, they'll get better math scores.
That's
How
right.
about instead of coming every day, you say, let's take it down a little bit so you can still do what you enjoy, whatever that is, and let's make sure that we bring this up a little bit.
That's
right.
right.
Like, you know, in terms of, you know, we have a team of senseis, we have a team of admin people. You know, I try to find out, what do you guys enjoy? You know, it's not like, oh, we did a great job. You know, all the kids look really happy, and everyone's, the quality of instruction and the quality of the students have gone up. Let's have a pizza party. You know, and like you know, you have a vegan here, and that's not what they want. So I always ask them too. It's like, what do you enjoy? Okay, so let's do that. You know, we really enjoy when you teach us this, or when we have our own class. Okay, why don't we do that, you know, instead of doing that like twice a month, whatever it may be. Okay, if we do a good job, we'll get to do it three times, right?
That's
so
right.
It would be in reverse. It's like, okay, you know what, we're gonna have to go from 4 times a week training to 2 times a week because we got to bring this up. But when you bring this up, you know, but you don't just take away what they're actually good at.
Absolutely,
right? Yeah.
absolutely. And you let them build their confidence here and transfer
That's right.
in the
yeah.
schools.
Yeah,
right?
and then that pressure is what, like, and now it's just like an avalanche of
Yes.
bad things,
Yes.
right? You know, and now they're miserable, right? And it's that pressure of failing now. It's just, oh my
right.
gosh, if I fail, I can't go to karate class, or I can't go to baseball, or whatever, right? So and now they're not thinking about the problem or of the homework. They're thinking about what they can't do.
That's right.
So, yeah. You
And I find like a lot of parents like to impose their dreams onto their kids.
Yeah, and like
you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm somewhat guilty of it, and you know, because my kids are even more talented than I ever was, right? At such a young age, and so I'm seeing this, and the hardest thing for me is to like not pursue that for them,
Yeah.
right? Like, you know, and it's and they you know, that it's working pretty good, I think. You know, they like coming, and there's no pressure for them to do it, to do martial arts. You know, like I'd like for them to do it every day, but you know, they come two times a week because it's not about me.
That's right.
It's about them, right? So yeah.
And you leave that choice up to them.
That's right. Yeah. You know, I tell them, it's like, you have to do it, but you don't have to do it the way I did it.
Yes.
Which was every day, right? And you don't have to, it doesn't have to be your life, like how it's my life. You know, like I tell my daughter, you have to do it because it's for self-defense, right? So that I can, when I can't always be with you, and you know, she's 10 going on 16, so she doesn't even want me around. But I said, you know, you will be taking the bus one day, and you know, I want you to have the confidence to know that if you needed to do something, you could, right? So that's the extent of me living through them. It's like, you have to do it, you have to learn, but you don't. It doesn't have to be the way I did it, and it doesn't have to be your life the way it's mine. Right? So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. So I'd like to leave this podcast with my final question, and that is, what inspiring message would you tell the people that are dealing with adversity in the world today?
You know what I would, when I train, sometimes it's best when I tell a story.
Yes.
Sometimes, especially when it's sparring and rolling, because you have someone who's preventing you to do what you want to do and pulling off your move, and sometimes they're they're scoring all the points, they're the one kicking me in the face, and they're the one punching me, or I'm the one getting rolled up into a pretzel, getting choked or getting tapped. And it's happened a lot of times where I just have this rut where it's like I seem to be losing every round, and I can't seem to do anything, right? And it makes me want to give up. It makes me not want to come back. It makes me, but I found that is always the time when I make a breakthrough, when I actually am improving. And it's not because it's because I'm finding out something else about myself, or I'm trying to integrate something new into my moveset or whatever it is, right? So, it's a small. The adversity is I'm getting punched in the face, I'm getting kicked in the ribs, I'm getting choked, I'm getting but I find that when I'm not performing well that way, even though I'm trying my hardest, I'm always just at a breakthrough where I'm actually going to be better than I was last time, and I'm starting to be able to I come out with a new move, or I like better. So people who are you never know, that might be the last day of adversity before the next day is where you reach that new height, right? And I experience, again, all my experience is through martial arts, and I experience that all the time with sparring, with rolling, so don't, going back to failure, just don't give up so easily, right? It's always a day after the night, right?
That's right, yes.
It's the same thing, right? So if you're facing adversity, you might just be at the end of that, and where you break through the next day. So don't, just keep, sometimes it's 1 round, sometimes it's 10 rounds, sometimes it's 100 rounds, right? And it's your 101st round. But just keep showing up for your round, and and then you'll win the next one.
It'll happen.
Yeah, it'll
That's
happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mark. Again, I want to thank you for joining us today. And for those who have any questions for Mark, please provide your comments or questions below, and I'll try to get Mark to answer them. And
you see me twice a week.
Yes,
so,
that's right. My daughter actually comes here, so I do see him a couple times a week. And for those who want to join Mark's classes, I will leave some details in the comment box as well, in the description. And you can call him directly if you want to sign up for yourself or your kid here in Toronto. And again, thank you very much, Mark. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
It was a lot of fun.
today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.